We are live. How's it going, Mets fans, Dodgers fans, whoever you're a fan of? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with our latest post-game segment as the New York Metropolitans unfortunately falter to the LA Dodgers today by a final score of a whopping 10-0. The Dodgers came out and decimated the Mets in what was not only a desperate fashion on their end, but was headlined by a Tyler Glasnow who absolutely carved up this Mets lineup. And even if the Mets, again, were not losing by as much as 10 through the first 5 innings, I'm going to go on a limb and say they still probably dropped this game with the way that Tyler Glasnow pitched today. Initially, James Paxton was supposed to be in that spot. The Dodgers opted for Glasnow, was announced over the past day or so. He is looking like an early Cy Young candidate there in the NL in his first year with the Dodgers. And for the Mets here, they regroup. Of course, they are without Francisco Alvarez for 6 to 8 weeks. They're without their star lefty reliever and Brooks Raley on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. But JD Martinez, the former LA Dodger, appears to be making his return as soon as later on this week. That and more is what we'll break down our biggest takeaways from this lopsided affair in LA. But to everyone first chiming in live on a replay, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button for your boy, as it is the easiest and best way to support the channel. Thank you all so much for chiming in. Greatly appreciate it. People watching this on Twitter, make sure that like, that follow button, that retweet, all that great stuff. Thank you all so much in advance. And do know that for all my Twitter followers, I will only be interacting with the YouTube live chat per usual today. This will not be too long-winded of a discussion. I'm going to break down my biggest takeaways from today's ball game, what I liked, certainly what I didn't like. Again, this was a perfect game for the Dodgers in a lot of ways, and trust me when I say they absolutely needed this. And honestly, as a Mets fan, we can come in away and say, yes, we still won this series, which is great. Of course, you get a sour taste in your mouth after a deficit like this, losing 10-0. That's never fun, but knowing that the Mets have been on the heater that they have been, they've now won 12 of their past 16 games. A lot of things have looked great in Mets land over the past couple weeks, and given the fact that this is their first loss and quite literally a week plus, they haven't lost since if I'm not mistaken, it was just over a week ago at the time I recorded this today. Not too much that I can complain about, but I will certainly share my disgruntlement with Adrian Houser, and why today is another example as to why we might see this man more as a long reliever than a potential starter for the Mets over the next couple weeks to month, if not sooner. And ultimately, how is the bullpen going to be impacted without their star and Brooks Raley as a beautiful southpaw option? How long will Raley be out? All that and then is what we'll be getting into. But again, I appreciate everyone first chiming in. Thank you all so much for being here. Bobby G, thank you so much. Great member. Drew, how you doing? I know my great members first chiming in. Juan Diaz, great mod, of course, as always. Well, we got our shit pushed in this game. I'll take the series win. And then, guys, I told you this. I literally told you this. Faja, how you doing? Happy to have you in here. I told you this as soon as we found out Glasnow was starting. I wasn't loving the chances today. I knew the Glasnow was going to be a guy that would be uber difficult for the Mets to face off against. But Adrian Houser, again, I shouldn't say he's too much of a soft tosser because he is touching 95. If anything, Jose Quintana is a bit more of a soft tosser than Houser. But Houser's lack of command and lack of control, again, against a deadly lineup that will make you pay. If they haven't made you pay in the first 48 hours of a series, they are certainly going to do so before this series wraps up. And the Dodgers made Adrian Houser pay left, right, and center. And that is why we now find ourselves in a discussion as to what will his role be as we go forward here this season. Will he stay as a starter? I think there's fair arguments to make that Adrian Houser is going to find himself in long relief depending on the Mets' internal options, headlined by Tyler McGill, set to come off the IL sooner rather than later. Just depends on how long it takes him to get ramped up from there. Then we, of course, have the likes of Joey Lucchesi there in AAA. Again, a soft tosser guy that doesn't touch too much velo at times, but he's usually sitting there with a heater, has a nasty churve that we know. And of course, you have Max Kranick as well, that the Mets picked up as a waiver pickup this offseason from the Pittsburgh Pirates. The diehard Mets fan growing up, New York native, was off to a great start this spring. Unfortunately, dealt with an ailment that put him on the IL. He's ramping up big time now, however, that we see there in the minor leagues. And Max Kranick is expected to impact the Mets this year. So you have to wonder, will he be given an opportunity maybe next time in the order for Houser? Will Houser start his next time around? Again, this is going to be an interesting discussion that we're going to have in the chat here today. But I appreciate everyone for chiming in live on a replay. You can't win them all. Of course you can't win them all. And the last thing I'm going to do today as being this overreactionary fan saying, I cannot believe the Mets got steamrolled today. How could this be possible? It's more along the lines of how did the Mets manage to go on the streak that they've been on to this point? That's the bigger standout to me. And the way the Mets have done it is in manners that are sustainable to a degree because they aren't overly reliant on small ball the way that they were in the 2022 season when they, of course, won 100 plus games and faltered there at the end of the season in a very dramatic and unfortunately embarrassing fashion. But before I break down the ball game, before I go through the innings again, how did this implode in the Mets' face before it really felt like it started? I do want to know, everyone watching live, people watching, the comments down below on replay, drop them, let me know, what is your biggest takeaway from today's 10-0 loss and the series as a whole? As again, the Mets still take 2 out of 3 against the LA Dodgers, 2 very entertaining games, and today pretty much a snooze fest. I know a lot of you hockey fans, Ranger fans, more infatuated with that 4-1 victory over the Capitals, which I find myself in the same category. Our New York Knickerbockers won against the Sixers in a beautiful fashion as well. We love to see it. So if you're a Knicks and a Rangers fan right now, if you've been following along with playoffs, you saw the Mets win 2 out of 3, you saw those games, all your teams for the most part, you won 4-1 in games over this past weekend of play. Not much to complain about there. I understand that if you're a fan of other teams, it might not necessarily be the same, and I understand that. I respect everyone's fandom here, but all in all, there was a lot of good that has happened this weekend in New York sports, and I'm grateful for it, even after a deficit like today, where again, the Mets just absolutely got steamrolled. You can say they got curb stomped, whatever you want to say, by the LA Dodgers today by a final score of 10-0. We're going to get breaking down the ball game here in just 1 second. Before I do, though, just want to make sure that I have everything set up here, so bear with me 1 second, folks. Let me make sure that this is under the Mets tweet as well, because I usually just like to tag the stream at least once after the Mets lose, those kind of things. And they had their comments flooded, surprisingly, which really surprised me considering the fact that, again, unless you're just being a troll, there isn't too much to complain about if you're a Mets fan right now, aside from Adrian Hauser. But let's get into it, folks. Let's break down what exactly transpired in the ball game. But before I do, there are, again, some key updates, as I mentioned. So as we saw, unfortunately, our young stud of a catcher in Francisco Alvarez, who I actually said on the Dodgers Nation YouTube channel a couple days ago as a series preview, I thought Alvarez would be an X factor in the series. Me, oh my, was I wrong in the worst way possible. Alvarez goes down with injury. He tears a ligament in his thumb. He has surgery, and he's out 6 to 8 weeks. Thankfully, again, Alvarez, we're only going to be missing him a month and a half or so, at absolute worst 2 months. God willing, we can have him back a month and a half from now, earliest as possible, but we will have him back no less by time we get to June, which is still very important and still a lot of baseball to be had there. But we're going to be missing Alvarez and his elite defense during that time. I'm not even talking about the bat that we know easily could have found himself in the 30-plus home run category this year, which is why I hammered with my amazing friends at BetUS, who has you covered with all your sports betting needs. So make sure you click the link down below today. That way you too get a 125% bonus with your first 3 deposits for everything and anything sports betting, including Ryan Garcia yesterday. If you guys hammered him against Haney there, big matchup. That was nuts. Garcia might hate the Mets, as he said a couple days ago, but I don't hate him for letting me hit there on an awesome pickup. Late game, a live bet there on that one, in which he had 3 knockdowns on Haney. But I'm getting on a sidetrack here. I'm getting on a tangent. What I want to emphasize here, not only with, again, BetUS, but most importantly, though, this is once again a Mets team that with Francisco Alvarez, who I had with my future bet at 30-plus home runs this season, that is likely not going to hit now, even though that Alvy may prove us all wrong and go on a tremendous tear this summer. Alvarez, what you're not just missing with his offensive contribution, which he hasn't done too much over the past 2 weeks, you could rightfully say, when things have gone right, well, you're going to miss tremendously, and we're going to see it again before our very eyes for days that Tomas Nido doesn't catch, is, yes, the lack of defense. Alvarez has been an elite framer. He's been tremendous at getting in front of balls. He has taken a big beating early on this season because how close he sits to, yes, the batter. So he deals with a lot of backswings. He deals with foul balls, hitting him all the time in uncomfortable places. And he has a beautiful arm to drill out guys at second. And I will say it is fitting that with him officially out 6 to 8 weeks, Tomas Nido, who didn't even get to the game until after the game first started yesterday, or right around there, because he had a delay with his flight there when he was playing with Syracuse. I got to give a huge shout out and huge kudos to Tomas Nido and the way that he stepped up for the Mets quickly now as their 1A, 1B option with Narvaez at the backstop position. But Nido got to the Mets game last minute yesterday, was able to play later on in the game, was looking strong with the defense. Today, same applies. Narvaez, and with the hit he had when the Mets only had a couple hits in total this game. But a big standout, again, is the lack of Alvarez. We're going to see every time Narvaez is out there just how much of a difference Alvy makes with stealing strikes, especially if your ump is going to be stubborn the way that we have seen plenty already this season. So Alvarez, you will be missed, my friend. We all love you to death, El Troll, and we wish you a speedy recovery. And speaking of speedy recoveries, folks, not that we're going to have that necessarily with Brooks Raley, but the good news is that Brooks Raley, who's now down on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation, the same exact injury he had right around April 15th of last season, looks like he's going to be perfectly fine after a normal IL stint. We should see him back in 2 weeks. But with this Mets bullpen, which has been absolute nails all season long, they're going to start to face tests like never before this season without their more dominant lefty option in the pen, and will have to now look and rely on a Jake Diekman should they not call up Nate Lavender during this stretch, which they may very well do so, who was the spring standout that looked fantastic. Jake Diekman is Jekyll and Hyde with what you get from him. Again, touching 97 on the gun, Nazi slider, but when he is not locating, he's walking everyone and their mother and the entire family tree for that matter. So Jake Diekman is not a Brooks Raley to say the least. So without Brooks, it'll be very interesting to see how the Mets go about their bullpen management for the next 2 weeks. Carlos Mendoza has a little bit more of a task on his hands, but overall, a lot of things could be worse here in Mets land. And there's one good positive, there's one bright spot from today in this 10-0 loss. After you find out Alvy's out for 2 months, basically, after you find out Raley's out for 2 weeks, you do find out that, yes, JD Martinez, who had himself a couple hits, including an RBI double today and 2 runs scored there, and Port St. Lucie, is going to be with AAA Syracuse Mets in the next day or so. Will likely play a game or two there in Syracuse before finally arriving with the Mets as soon as this Friday, folks. So yes, you heard that correctly. All things are trending in the right direction. JDM is finally starting to look healthy, getting that swing right there in the minor leagues, and he is expected to be with the Mets as soon as this Friday or sometime over the weekend. So buckle up, folks. JD Martinez, it's not a matter of if, but when he returns to the Mets, and it could just be by this week's end. Zach, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Zach says, Nito needs to be our prime catcher till Alvy's back. He caught our first steal in defense at that position. Is more important right now for our purposes. 100% agree. As I was going to get to, one of the few bright spots from Tomas Nido today was his ability to throw out a runner at second base, something that no one, including Francisco Alvarez, has been able to do this season. The Mets, if I'm not mistaken, were either 27 or 28 for 28 and allowing runners to steal first and second base. You see the tag there, funny enough, it's on the fellow catcher in Will Smith, who threw out 2 Mets batters trying to steal second base today, that being Harrison Bader and Francisco Lindor. So both catchers, again, were putting on defensive clinics today. Only one of them, however, found themselves in the win column, and that was the Will Smith of the LA Dodgers and not the one of Bel Air. And for the Mets, Tomas Nido, he's back with the Mets, and I'm excited to see him and his defense, because even if he provides nothing offensively, this Mets offense should be able to carry the weight around him where it isn't too much of a big deal. And I say this again, as the Mets were on a absolute heater without Francisco Alvarez providing much offensive contribution throughout the past 2 weeks, right? So let me get on now, folks. There was one key update I want to share to you all, and this was from Tomas Nido yesterday, guys. Just listen to this real quick, and then we'll break down the game, what you need to know, the key takeaways, including Adrian Hauser getting absolutely rocked. The ensuing 20 hours became an exercise in crisis management there, as I read from this article. As Alvarez underwent an MRI and other tests, the Mets sent word to Charlotte, North Carolina, where Nido was playing at AAA. Nido hopped on a connecting flight through Atlanta, waited out a 2-hour delay, touched down in LA, fought another 90 minutes of traffic, and arrived to Dodger Stadium about 20 minutes after first pitch. By the bottom of the 7th inning, he was on the field in catcher's gear, and of course we saw Nido before the conclusion of the Mets' Game 2 and series victory. 6-4 was your final against those Dodgers yesterday. Doing his best Raji Davis impression, right? Because when Raji did that with the Mets, he took the Uber. Shout out to the Uber to get him there in time. Then he had that absolutely massive home run, if I'm not mistaken, later on as a heroic game for the Mets in their rally. But Tomas Nido, we're happy to have you back. He's had the surgery done to his eyes, so he can see clearly now. It's been like that for a bit. Fully expect some plus defense, some plus frame jobs, and hopefully, again, more drill outs like this from Tomas Nido when he gets the starts there over Omar Narvaez, folks. But as we break down the game, everybody, It starts there in the first inning. Freddie Freeman with a double. Thankfully, that's all she wrote there for Adrian Hauser. Again, Hauser through the first 4 innings looked great, but once we got through those first four, things definitely went downhill and fast. I shouldn't even say first four. I mean, there was one really bad pitch we'll get to here shortly, but Freeman again with a double. That's all she wrote there in the first. In the bottom of the second, we would see there, bottom of the first that was. In the bottom of the second, because the Mets go down in order, what feels like almost every single inning against Tyler Glasnow today, who went 8 shutty against the Mets, including 10 strikeouts, a phenomenal stat line, one of the best pitching outings you have seen so far this season. Tyler Glasnow making the Mets his children, and you know what? It happens. It is what it is. He's a fantastic talent coming back from Tommy John surgery that we know. As we see there in the third, after Teoscar is stranded via walk there in the second inning. In the third, Jed McNeil with the Mets' first hit of the day via single. Harrison Bader with a fielder's choice, and then Bader is caught stealing second base. The first of 2 times that happens to the Mets today, where it hurts them, with one time being it where it favors them. In the bottom of the third, we see Gavin Lux with a walk. Shohei Ohtani absolutely rips a no-doubt home run. Adrian Hauser struck out Ohtani in his first at-bat today in the first, but as we got there to the third, it was a different story there for Shohei, who absolutely ate up a hanging breaking ball right down the pipe. You see it there. Pardon me, that was a strikeout, rather. I don't even have, that's right, I don't have the Dodger highlights rolling, because if I don't have to do it, I'm not going to do it. But no less, again, absolutely ate up a hanger. Adrian Hauser gives up the 2-run nuke to one of, if not the best player in Major League Baseball, and Shohei Ohtani. And then as we advance further on in the ball game here, again, the Dodgers take a 2-0 lead. In the bottom of the fourth, we would see there, again, before, however, Will Smith does drill out, is drilled out by Tomas Nido there after the Ohtani home run, because Will Smith gets on via a walk there that we see in that same inning. Nido gets him out. I digress. We get to the bottom of the fourth here with 2 outs. Francisco Lindor with an opposite field single, proving that he can continue to hit from the left side of the plate. It's great to see him continue to spread the field and showcase his ability from the left side finally. But Lindor, however, is caught stealing second, just like his buddy in Harrison Bader inning prior. We then get to the bottom of the fourth, where you would see Hauser have his best inning, a 1-2-3 fourth. In the fifth, then we would see Pages get a double, Lux with a walk, Mookie Betts with an RBI single. That makes it 3-0 Dodgers. A infield single by Ohtani that hits off of Adrian Hauser's foot, unfortunately, makes the bases loaded for Freddie Freeman, who, of course, makes Hauser pay. When Adrian Hauser is sitting 93-95 with the sink and is very much a reliant ground ball pitcher, cannot induce ground outs, it's going to be the same story like it was against the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta. It's not going to go well. Freddie Freeman drives in a couple more with the double, and just like that's a 5-0 Dodgers lead, but let's make it 7-0 as Will Smith right after rips himself a double to drive in runners at second and third. Grant Hartwig comes in today as he was just called up as a transaction for a Brooks Raley. Hartwig, again, just coming in to eat innings. I do think we will see Lavender at some point during this stretch, especially if Hartwig continues to labor here. Hartwig comes in, he gives up a walk to Max Muncy, and Pages, the rookie, hits his first career home run, a 3-run, no doubt, dead center bomb. That makes it a 10-0 ball game in the fifth, and just like that, the ball game is over, folks. From there, you would see, again, relief outings by the Mets, in which they certainly get the job done, but that's all she wrote. Again, you get Michael Tonkin with 2 scoreless innings today, so even though it was a wash game, it was nice to see him finally get some outs where he's not getting worked the entire time, so Michael Tonkin lives to survive another day. Adrian Hauser is charged with 8 earned runs, 4 walks by Adrian, who continues to labor big time with commanding the zone, and now he has a 7.45 ERA on the season, folks. Everybody, I gotta ask, how much longer do you think Adrian Hauser is going to stay in this Mets rotation? Because how things currently stand, I do not foresee Hauser staying in this rotation beyond a month from now. I think we're going to find out in the coming weeks, with the likes of McGill coming back from injury, with the likes of Joey Lucchesi down there, with Max Kranick coming back from his injury, and also Christian Scott, Mike Vassell really knocking on the door. I don't think the Mets are going to have tolerance for starts like this too often, and I understand you're playing the big bad Dodgers, who have not played great baseball. They finally broke out today. I understand the context, but at the end of the day, you know that if this was a different Mets starter, they probably fare better than what Hauser gave you today. Adrian Hauser against, mid teams for the most part, looking fantastic. Adrian Hauser against some of the best lineups in baseball that are great on not inducing ground ball outs consistently the way that we've seen him get his closeouts from other teams, yeah, that's where you're going to find yourself having problems, everybody. So let me know how you feel about Adrian Hauser. Again, I don't hate the guy. I'm fine with him getting another start or so, but he is the one where he's starting to look more and more like on the outside looking in as being an impactful starter for this Mets rotation this year. And let's not forget, when he has had solid outings, it has been in hand with doing a lot of Houdini things by working out of some key jams. Not to say you can't have success doing that, but ultimately, if that's something you're doing on a consistent basis every fifth day, it's a ticking time bomb. It's just a matter of time before you end up dealing with more issues than what you've dealt with to that point. Let's see. Hauser has one more start, then he's done. Till McGill comes back. Let's see here. Today was his last day. Sestoni. Hauser's the new McGill, says Carlos Ortiz. Great member. How you doing? Let's see here as well. Mets were due for a bad game. They were for sure. We all thought that was going to happen at some point. Let's see. Hey, Wardy, the period at the end of a sentence is there for a reason. Use it. All right, Jeff, I didn't realize that you ran the channel, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. Greatly appreciate the insight. I'm not going to lie. It absolutely cracks me up when people say, you got to do it this way. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it my way because it's my platform. But I appreciate the comment, no less, and the view. So thank you for that. Juan Diaz, LFG, I'm happy to have you in here, folks. But yes, that's what we got from the Mets pitching side of things today. Now, as we get on, folks, did not mean to have the intro running. I always do that because I'm a schmuck. As we look at the hitting numbers, what we saw today, folks, Brandon Nimmo, 1 for 4 that we saw there. Again, Brandon Nimmo, was he hitting this season? Let's actually double check. We'll check through Baseball Savant right now for you all, folks. Brandon Nimmo, as things currently stand, is now batting .208 with a .716 OPS. Starling Marte, who went 0 for today as well, .276 average with a .771 OPS. Tyrone Taylor, who came in after Marte today for a couple at-bats, 0 for 2, 318 average, .786 OPS. Francisco Lindor, 1 for 2 today, 188 average, and a .572 OPS. Joey Wendell, 0 for 2 today, coming in for Lindor there later on because the Mets were basically waving the white flag. 300 average, .683 OPS. Pete Alonso, 1 for 4 with a .241 average and .805 OPS. Brett Beatty, 0 for 3 today in his first start coming back from his injury. .281 average, .677 OPS. Zach Short, 0 for 1 as the pinch hitter, 111. .384 is his line. DJ Stewart, 1 for 3 today. .235 average, .985 OPS. The Mets really have an interesting I shouldn't say dilemma, but they have a good problem to have here. Should JD Martinez return by Friday, DJ Stewart is going to be the odd man out right now in the current lineup, but it doesn't mean that DJ needs to be sent down to AAA entirely. I think with the way he's been swinging the bat, as long as he has the ability to come in, be clutch in pinch hitting situations, and sometimes platooning that DH spot when it makes more sense, that you could have DJ in there right now over one of Zach Short or Joey Wendell. You do not need both those guys on the team, and Zach Short or Joey Wendell really doesn't matter too much to me who's the chosen one there. I'd imagine it'll be Zach Short, though, because even though Wendell's defense has frustrated us, Wendell has proven more in his little sample sizes offensively than what Zach Short has. So Zach, I do imagine, will be on the outside looking in, will be a DFA'd by the week's end once JD Martinez hopefully returns. And then we see Jeb McNeil 1 for 3 today with a .254 average, a .724 OPS. Harrison Bader 1 for 3. Tomas Nido 1 for 3. Nido's batting .333 with a .666 OPS, and Harrison Bader's at a .308 average with a .723 OPS. And then Grant Hartwig 6 ERA, Michael Tonkin 6 ERA, 7.45 ERA for Adrian Hauser. Not a lot of fun numbers to read off there, but the beauty about it is that, one, we're not too deep into the season, so that's a good thing. Two, it definitely is an emphasis that I had yesterday that I will share with you all more. This is why you absolutely, positively, every single day of the week need to appreciate the runs that the Mets have been on. The Mets have been playing tremendous baseball. That's why I told you all so much yesterday. Enjoy this, savor every second, because it's not going to last forever. We're going to go through highs and lows. This may have well been the best stretch the Mets may have all season long, for all we know. So again, appreciate when they're at their high and support them when they're at their lows, because Francisco Lindor, since receiving a standing ovation there at Citi Field a week plus ago, has been batting over 300 total since then. So it is always good to cheer on your team, even if they go down. And again, this was a Mets game today where they absolutely had the right to kind of wave the white flag the way that they did because of Adrian Hauser's lack of pitching competency today. And again, the offense just could not have an answer for one of the best right-handers in the National League now, in Tyler Glasnow. Bro, the intro gets me every time. I know it does. I'm sorry, G. It gets me every time, too, because I'm the schmuck that continues to forget about it. And again, I don't mean to do that. That's the thing. I truly do not. Let's see here. DJ's got to stay either short or Wendell got to go. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. How much longer is Senga out? The earliest Kodai Senga can return is May 27th, back from the 60-day IL, but I'd imagine we will not get him back until sometime in June, even with him progressing well and having just pitched a 26-pitch bullpen at Citi Field a couple days ago, if my memory serves me correct. But folks, before we wrap things up, I got to let you know about our amazing sponsor, BetUS. No, I'm not going to talk as much about bets today because we're going to come at you with some big bets this week on our pregame coverage and, of course, breaking them down in our postgame coverage. But as I've described a lot, and as I will again, folks, we're going to break down the official Wiener Connoisseur opportunity. Yes, you heard that correctly, folks. Do you love hot dogs? Do you love absolutely downing those glizzy's paws? Yes, you heard that correctly. Do you want the opportunity to travel to every single major league ballpark, all 30 of them, and have the chance to find the best, the juiciest, the girthiest, the best overall hot dog imaginable by being BetUS's official Wiener Connoisseur? Well, you're in luck because you can apply today by clicking the link down below, the second link available in the description. That way you too, again, can get an opportunity to go to every single ballpark in Major League Baseball, eat your favorite things, which I'm sure is hot dogs, which is why you'd be applying, and showcasing why you are in fact a Wiener Connoisseur, showing the differences between a boiled and, of course, a grilled hot dog. What makes the best hot dog in Major League Baseball? You look at the longest length, the diameter, the weight, and the price point. Of course, BetUS, our great friends, are quite literally looking for someone that smiles at the idea of a literal sausage fest. Yes, you heard that correctly, folks, on this fine Sunday. And if you are, in fact, selected to be the official Wiener Connoisseur, you're not only going to have all of your expenses covered, meaning travel expenses and tickets to games, but you're also going to get $2,500 in cash just for being chosen as the applicant here, a $500 MLB Shop gift card, and a 1-year subscription to MLB TV. And all you got to do is click the link down below today. Yes, again, you heard this correctly. You have the opportunity today to sign up to be an official Wiener Connoisseur for BetUS Sportsbook, which literally means you go to every single ballpark in Major League Baseball, you try all the glizzies, you make great experiences, you hit, again, ball games at every park, which you know how many people have on their bucket list just trying to do that in their lifetime, let alone a season. This might just be your opportunity, so make sure to check it out today by clicking down below and shout at BetUS with this phenomenal promo that I cannot say enough amazing things about. It truly does not only mind-boggle and baffle me, but I'm always left with a smile on my face when I get to read off this promo because of just how bizarre and the best way possible, because it does make sense. Again, they're looking for a Wiener Connoisseur, and baseball is the best sport to try to find these different type of hot dogs in. So shout out BetUS once again, who has you covered with all your sports betting needs. James, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate that. Stoney wants to be a winner there. The girthiest. Yep, you heard that right, Eugene. We were saying it how it is. Yeah, you love to see it. But get everybody, that is about going to wrap up the show. I'm not going to be too long-winded with this segment today. So again, I want to thank you all so much for watching live on our replay. The Metropolitans again faltered today to the LA Dodgers by a final score of 10-0. They look to get back in the win column tomorrow night in San Fran against those Giants in what is a less than ideal ballpark to try to hit the ball out of if you're not named Barry Bonds. Let's see how this offense does. Let's see how the Giants do. So be on the lookout, folks. Not certain if we will have pregame coverage out tomorrow, but we will absolutely have postgame coverage. I will keep you guys updated throughout the week with the type of coverage we will be having on the channel and everything in between. Until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. The Mets drop their series finale as the Dodgers salvage this one, winning by a final score of 10-0, and now the Mets take on the next big thing in this road trip, which is the San Francisco Giants. Thank you all.